Namaste. So today I'm going to teach the brain balancing technique, as it is called by the BodyTalk system, the Cortices technique. Now a lot of people ask me, how does this really work? Well, if you think in terms of Newtonian science, it cannot be explained. But now there is the new age science, the quantum physics. And if you have a little idea of that, you will know exactly how this works. The difference between the two sciences is the Newtonian science, which is known to most people, is a bottom-up approach. Means you have to start with something solid, and then you break it down and you try to understand it. Whereas quantum science is the top-down approach. Means we are starting with consciousness and we are working down to the more physical levels. So this is the major difference why most people don't understand how energy medicine works. A lot of people also ask, what can you compare BodyTalk with? Well, you can't, because all modalities are based on symptomatic treatments, and BodyTalk is the leader in energy medicine, and it has cutting-edge techniques, and it is going to be the foundation of all energy medicine of the future. Now, this Cortices technique is so powerful, and it is, we can call it the mother of all techniques, and the BodyTalk system encourages its practitioners to teach this freely to everybody. It can be practiced by men, women of all ages, children, animals, and sick people trying to recover. And it's not just the brain balancing, it balances your entire body. The limitations, though, depend on your own level of consciousness, because the technique is a tool, and our consciousness has many filters. Those filters come into our consciousness from belief systems, various belief systems, which are very, very strong. And the conditioning of our brain from our fetal life till we grow old. We are so heavily conditioned that the filters in the mind and consciousness are pretty dense. But fortunately, just without knowing anything, if you practice this technique on a daily basis, your filters will gradually clear and you will get a very pronounced sense of well-being. So it all depends on the focus of your mind and the consciousness and how you clear your filters. So we will be doing this technique, and it is based, as I said, on energy medicine, quantum physics. And as you know, the brain is the master controller of the entire body. All healing begins from the brain, and the brain is generally gets waylaid due to stress of many kinds, physical stress, mostly emotional and mental stress. And there are certain wirings of the brain that get upset, and our aim is to balance the brain and bring it to its optimum state so that it can do what it is supposed to do. If you look at wild animals, they don't need any attention. They know how to heal themselves, because wild animals are not conditioned like humans, and therefore humans need to balance their brain in order that it can work properly. The brain being a combination of complex electrical circuitry. It is the brain which has put a computer together, so it's far superior than the best computers of this planet. But computers too malfunction. They get viruses, you have to repair them. So the brain itself, which has created it, needs some maintenance, and this technique is the best you can find into balancing your brain, the Cortices technique. Now we start this first by using our two hands, and the hands, as you know, when you bring the two hands together, there is a magnetic field, there is a north and south pole, right? That's why we do the namaste like this. So we are going to use the two hands. With one hand we will cover the entire part of the brain, right? The limbic brain, occipital, parietal and prefrontal cortex. And we will be doing a procedure called tapping. Tapping is actually from the Vedic times. This tapping procedure has come from there. So we are basically tapping the brain and sending waves, standing waves down to your thalamus, the center part of your brain. And the thalamus is the one which receives all the inputs, and then it sends out signals to do various things in your brain and your body. So our tapping is actually sending a standing wave down to the thalamus, and the message it gives is the message in your consciousness. So that's quantum science. So we are going to start with the occipital brain, cover the entire parietal brain, your limbic brain, do the tapping on the head and do the tapping on the sternum, and nowadays we also tap the intestines because that's the enteric brain. So basically you have three brains. You have the head brain, you have the heart brain, and you have the enteric brain, right? And these enteric brain and heart brain are equally, if not more important than your head brain, because the head brain is just a processor. So what we do is we form a bridge. See, you have the left brain and the right brain, and there is a partition in between. And we generally are using only 2 to 5% of the brain, and the rest is just wasted. So by doing this Cortices technique, you are going to be able to use your brain more usefully to a larger extent. So we start with bridging the left and right hemispheres so that the two brains can communicate and work together, so to speak. So now we will start with the Cortices technique. The first part is going to be, we start with the occipital brain. We bridge the occipital brain like this at the back, and then with the other hand we gently tap with open fingers on your cortex. Remember, you have to tap both sides of the brain, so the tapping has to be done like that, generally for 2 breath cycles, a couple of seconds. And this technique is harmless. It has, the only side effect it has is wellness. You'll only feel better, nothing can go wrong. So while you are tapping, it all depends what your focus is. So focus on what you want, and the basic focus is balancing. And the signal, this standing wave, is going down to your thalamus, the message. And after that, we tap the sternum, which represents the heart brain, to lock in whatever we have programmed the brain to do. And then we tap the enteric brain, your intestines. After doing this once, then we move one span of the head of your hand to the more higher part of your parietal brain. And then you again tap both sides of your cortex, your sternum, and your enteric brain. And moving the hand on your parietal brain, the next span, and when your hand is on the center of the head, you can tap over the hand. In fact, if you don't even physically tap and you just send the standing wave down, it will have the same effect. You're tapping here, tapping your sternum, tapping your enteric brain, and moving the hand to your prefrontal cortex. Some people who have a larger cortex may need 4 spans, some may need 3, the children may need just 3. And then again we tap the cortex on both sides. Just remember, keep your fingers open. There's gentle tapping. The focus is very important. The result is dependent on your focus. Your sternum and your enteric brain. Having covered the entire parietal aspect of your brain, we now attend to the limbic brain on the two sides. So you hold the two sides, and then having only two hands, you remove one hand. You again do the tapping on the cortex, on the sternum and the enteric brain. Returning your hand back to the limbic brain and remove your other hand and again tap. Tap the sternum, tap the cortex, and re-establish the contact with the limbic brain for a moment. Remove and smile. So you have performed the Cortices technique to balance all aspects of the brain. We have covered the entire brain, and so that it can perform its job in an optimal manner. And it is said, and it is being done by a lot of people on a daily basis. Once a day at least, or twice a day, if you are doing this, you will see the dramatic changes in your wellness. We teach it to school children, they get fantastic results. The brain functions better. Sportsmen, you perform much better. Musicians, anybody and everybody. And if you're recovering from an illness, it's even more important for your brain to function optimally so that it can take care of any problems in your entire body. So kindly perform this regularly and you see the dramatic results. Thank you for watching. Keep tapping. Namaste.